Erin Levine to the How I Made It series. Erin Levine is a divorce attorney and the owner of the Levine Family Law Group in Oakland, California. In 2018, she launched the platform Hello Divorce, which aims to help users resolve their divorces from start to finish, quickly and efficiently with less stress and mess. What makes Erin such an exciting guest on How I Made It is she's not a traditional mediator, but rather she identified a need that her clients had, and she created a groundbreaking form of alternative dispute resolution to address those needs. She has been the recipient of many awards, including the Women Founders Network, Forbes, Entrepreneur, and most recently, she was named a legal rebel by the American Bar Association. Their legal rebel project profiles lawyers who are finding new ways to practice law as the legal profession undergoes a structural break with the past. So once again, we are so happy to have Erin here and to hear her story. So welcome, Erin. And I think maybe a great place is to tell us maybe where it all started before Hello Divorce. What inspired you to go to law school and form your own practice?
Great. It's wonderful to be here. These are my people, the SCMA. So I feel very welcomed and love being here. So I actually, what inspired me to go to law school stemmed from my own disempowering experience with the legal system. As a late teen, I was a witness in a criminal case and a plaintiff in a civil case against my gymnastics coach, who unfortunately had been very abusive to me and my teammates. And while we obtained justice in the traditional sense of the word, he went to prison for a little while, and he paid for a lot of my law school education. The whole experience just felt awful. It felt triggering, traumatizing. I felt like I never knew what was going on. It was not transparent at all. It lasted forever. And so I knew at that point I wanted to do something that helped people navigate through the system with a little bit more self-empowerment and control. And I also knew that it would be a long time before I could get there. I first wanted to learn how to actually be a lawyer and understand how the system worked, at least in one or two areas of law. And then ultimately, I could embark on something that felt more aligned with the initial reason why I wanted to attend.
I think you're muted, Richard.
Muted. I'm sorry. It is such a pleasure to have you on our series, How I Made It series. And in terms of the information that you, just in terms of leading up to your legal career, I'm just absolutely astounded. And unfortunately, a situation that we have all too often heard of most recently. And that's just, it's an awful way to start, but goodness sakes, look where you are. And I'm so pleased with what you're doing. Erin and I met 3 years ago at the Family Mediation Institute, as a matter of fact, and I was extremely impressed in our first meeting. And as I've watched your career develop, even more so today, I'm curious in terms of, as you started in 2018, I understand, you launched the online platform for Hello Divorce. And I'm wondering if you could tell us just a little bit more about it, and specifically what it looks like. And what I often use is the term operationalize: who, what, when, where, how much. It's just, to me, I'm so intrigued by what you've done in that it looks like an alternative to alternative dispute resolution. And I'm just very interested to learn a little bit more, please.
Thank you. I remember that meeting well, actually, because I had pitched my idea for Hello Divorce to a lot of lawyers, and many of them had sort of referred to it as my hobby, or not that I don't love lawyers, and there aren't incredibly well-intentioned ones, but there was just like a lot of pushback. This isn't going to work. And I met Richard, and he was like, you got this, girl, let's do this. It was really inspiring. So the product/service, it looks a lot different almost every time you take a look at Hello Divorce. It's constantly changing. We recently brought on the product lead for over 10 years at TurboTax, who is our chief product officer now at Hello Divorce. So we are really shifting from a tech-enabled services platform more to a product first with experts as necessary. But right now, what it is a platform that allows people to navigate the entire divorce process start to finish. These are for uncontested divorces or divorces where both parties would prefer to stay out of court. It doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be conflict or that there aren't disagreements, but the goal here is to reduce overwhelm, to provide education, to provide transparency with fees so that everybody knows what will be expected from them, to show progress along the way with our forms that auto-populate based on the questionnaires that the parties fill out, and then to offer expertise as necessary. So as an example, our most popular plan is our Pro plan. And what that is that one or both parties can use our software to populate all of their divorce forms. However, an account coordinator steps in to file them with the court because the submission guidelines are so complicated, to encourage people along the way, to provide them resources, maybe legal, sometimes it's other things like how do I get a new health insurance plan? Where can I find a new financial planner? How do I change my name? How do I repair my credit? So they're sort of helping people along and then coordinating between spouses. Then about 65% of our Pro subscribers upgrade to spend 1, 2, or 3 hours with either a lawyer, a mediator, which we highly encourage, or a certified divorce financial analyst. So if there's a particular issue where they're getting stuck, maybe it's a co-parenting dispute, maybe they're not sure how to value retirement plans and need some help there. Maybe they want to go over the support calculations and see if they can come to an agreement. Then they can bring that professional in right on the platform. So they don't need to go outside and try to find someone and get that person to coordinate with Hello Divorce. Instead, everybody is working towards a common goal. So this has been a real labor of love. It is my vision to make divorce friendlier, more affordable, and a lot easier. And we're just kind of taking it a step at a time.
It's just amazing. As I listen to your description there, I'm thinking you're taking, the basics of what I would call an integrative mediation practice, problem-solving practice, or a problem-solving model, bringing in elements of collaborative law. So you've got experts that are able to actually provide that assistance when it's needed, but at the same time, the parties are able to navigate much of this on their own. Very impressive. Very impressive.
Thank you. It's really exciting. And I've had so much support from so many people. SCMA was like one of the first associations to not endorse our model, but encourage it. Mm-hmm. Susan Guthrie connected me to SCMA, and from there we've met most of our mediators who actually are members of your organization. So it felt like the right time for us to be connecting.
Nice, yeah. That's just it's really great to hear, and it's nice to see the progress that you've made in the 3 years in terms of building this. So it's quite exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question, and in terms of first of all, just a comment. Of course, this is just so amazing. Divorce, as you know, we all hear just how incredibly taxing it is, and so not only are you able to bring people away from the very litigious court system, but you're also solving a lot of other problems that arise during the divorce process, where people have to, bring in outside financial planners, and just reducing that stress on people. That is just, it's really so admirable. And I think it's such, positive change that our society really needs. So I'm just curious,
Thank
how
you.
is it reducing the time? So like how long is an average divorce case and how long does it take to get divorced on Hello Divorce or through Hello Divorce, I should say?
Yeah, so the average spend for a consumer is $1,300 as compared to the average cost of divorce in this country being 15 to 17,000 in most states. In states like California or New York, it's 26, 27,000 if you have children each. And it's also helping people who don't have access to a lawyer. 75% of divorces have at least one self-represented party. That's a lot of people trying to navigate the system on their own or with the court's help. And so that's a big reason why divorces take so long in this country, 12 to 18 months on average, because not only do you have to figure out the system, but then you have to figure out how to get a court date and wait for that court date, which since COVID has only taken longer and longer and longer. In some cases, you have people who have been able to figure out how to do the forms. But in states like Texas, for example, some counties, you have to have a lawyer review the forms, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're using the court to do that, you have sometimes a 6-month waiting period before they can even look at your documents. So the average divorce on Hello Divorce right now is 6 months. And I think we can even get it done earlier, but two things are preventing that. One is I don't like to rush people. These are big decisions.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, especially women, and not because they're not brilliant, but they might not have as much familiarity with the family finances for whatever reason. Maybe it's control, maybe it's that it was just an easier division of labor. Men tend to be more comfortable with finances. So I need to know that they understand the contract that they're dissolving. So that's one reason why we're still at that 6-month mark. The other is the vast majority of our customers are still in California. While we've expanded, we started in California. That's where people know me and my company. And there's a 6-month waiting period in California. So even if you finish tomorrow, you still have to wait 6 months for the judgment to be signed.
You know, it's interesting. When you mentioned Texas, and like I said, as I'm just finding out more about what you're doing, I'm thinking, how are you doing this across the United States? Yeah, I mean, you're based in California, but in terms of the legal system and various rules and regulations with regard to the legal issues you're facing in all 50 different states, how are you navigating that?
So we have consultants, lawyers and paralegals and mediators in every state that we go into. It is really challenging, to say the least. It's one thing to understand the flow and the forms. It's a whole other to understand how county to county might differ in terms of document submission. I think that's part of our secret sauce. Like, we are really scaling for now people. At some point, some of the stuff that people do will be included in our tech, but those people will always have a place with us. I mean, they're extraordinary humans, but some of this stuff we'll be able to sort of and we're starting to get smarter with it, be able to figure out how to determine when something changes, then change it, implement that change. But for now, it's just like a lot of late nights, like pulling data and talking to people and trying to figure it out. What makes it even more complicated is that there are regulations that prevent fee sharing, which means a non-legal company like ours can't take legal fees, and also prevent there's regulations around unauthorized practice of law. Some states are harder on it than others. What that means is that we can't do something as simple as, and I'm a lawyer, I've been one for 16 years, but in my capacity as an employee of Hello Divorce, I can't tell a consumer something like, ooh, this actually looks pretty complicated. And I happen to know in your county, judges prefer that you resolve X. Maybe you want to talk to a lawyer. I can't even say that. So that is what makes it actually the most challenging, is being able to provide something that actually works without violating the law. Because most of us, whether we're paralegals or lawyers or financial planners, like, this is how we make a living. If we lose our license, we can't. And so I think that's probably the most challenging piece of it all.
Right. Yeah. And that's what when you mentioned Texas, I just went back and went, oh my gosh, in terms of how to navigate that. So what I'm hearing you say, this is really an organic process that
Yeah.
you're going through, even at this point, in terms of things are rapidly changing. And I think, evidenced by that, by bringing on the gentleman from TurboTax to help you, that's also impressive. Can you expand on that just a little bit? Because that caught my eye also.
So it's actually a woman. Her name is Carla Uribe. She grew up in Mexico and then went to school in San Diego. And she is fluent in both Spanish and English, which will help us to launch Hola Divorcio, because we definitely want a Spanish-speaking product and more, but we'll start there. So Carla was instrumental in not just the TurboTax product that we know, the filing your taxes, filling out the forms, but also in the expert platform that is now very much pushed on TurboTax. So you'll see if you go to their website that now they really try to involve experts. You might need, all of you know this, you might need a CPA to help you a little bit as your life gets more complicated and interesting. That's exactly what we want to do, right? We want the putting your information in the forms to be delightful, to be as easy as possible, but we also will always include the experts, primarily mediators, because divorce is hard. It's not just hard legally, but it's hard emotionally. And so if we can build an expert platform that really interfaces where it's not just easy for the consumer, but now it becomes easier for us experts and professionals in our field, then I think we've really accomplished something. So that's why we brought her on. And she's just like blowing our minds every day. It's really exciting. It's really exciting to bring people in from outside the legal field. I never realized how much, I mean, we have this incredible subject matter expertise. I know Jennifer will agree with me there. But we sometimes overthink like very sort of like easy concepts because we know everything that could go wrong. But for 90% of the customers that come to Hello Divorce, that nuanced response is actually not what they need. So if we can make it so we don't show them that and freak them out unless that issue comes up, then that's a much better experience. And so that's why we brought in Carla and these other folks that are just incredible.
Yeah, just amazing. It triggers other questions for me, but I would go on forever. So Jennifer, I want to kick it back over to you, or I will just keep going here. But I made note of something I want to ask a little later.
Okay, I love it. I have so many questions too. I think this is, for us, I think this is such a fascinating topic of really, this whole other way of resolving a dispute. And I hear the passion in your voice, which means you've really found something that you love, which is so cool. I guess my question is, I want to hear about the mediators first. I like Richard, I have so many questions right now, but tell us, since that we're talking to mediators, how you involve mediators and how the mediation process works.
Yes, this is actually the most exciting part, I think, of Hello Divorce. It was not an initial offering. We are in the legal field, the average net promoter score, so client satisfaction score, is 25, which is terrible. And so like we initially knew that we wanted to do like stuff in the legal space, legal forms, access to lawyers. I had dabbled in mediation, but wasn't a lifelong mediator by any means. But as we're like learning from our customers, and that's the one advantage that we kind of had over my law firm, was volume, right? We're getting all this data and all this interest. What we were finding is when we would ask over and over again, if there was one professional that we could offer you, who would it be? And there's this long list, right? And like almost every time it was a mediator. There was also a lot of misconceptions about what mediators do and arbitrators. So that's interesting for all of us to remember as we're marketing and branding ourselves. But so that became really interesting to me. And that's when we launched the Mediation by the Hour, or our cooperative divorce. At the same time, I was talking to mediators, and I was finding that a lot of mediators said, I really love doing this work, this like helping people come to resolution, and I really like being paid for it, but I don't love the forms and like having to like figure out whether or not they're getting filed and what's the status of them and are they right, or even having to partner and rely on someone else to do it. So it started getting my mind going. I was like, wait a minute, if we could take that off their plates, unless they want to do it, if you want to do it, great. But if we could take that off their plates and then take all the administration, all the like pulling in cases, all of the marketing, all of that stuff off their plate. So the only thing they have to do or want to do is mediation, and they get paid for that time. Then it feels like a win-win situation in a lot of cases, because they could drop their hours to maybe only mediate a couple, 2-3 hours a day, but then they can sit back because they don't have all the other stuff. Or they could supplement their business. In a lot of areas like divorce, it's kind of seasonal. So to know that like, okay, in July, my caseload is a little bit down, I'll tell Hello Divorce that I'm available for a few cases. Like it really felt win-win. But what's exciting is we're like still at the very early stages of determining what a Hello Divorce is, which is why you often see me at events, which is why, I've read Gabrielle Hartley's Better Apart, getting the yes. I mean, like, because we're still trying to figure out what it will ultimately look like. But what you'll start seeing soon are some tools to help people, some tech tools that any of you will be able to use. Not at this point, no plans to charge for it, but like some tools to help people figure out where they have agreements, better communication skills, things like that. So it's very much a work in progress. But other than the taking the forms off your plate, mediators that work with us have a very similar experience, I would think, in their own practices. There's nothing like particularly fancy about our mediation program. Not that your mediation programs aren't fancy, but what I mean by that is that if this aligns with your values and this sounds fun and interesting, it could be a good option, and there's not this steep learning curve because you know how to make this work. We're still learning.
That's amazing. Let me do one thing. I'm going to ask you one more question. I'm going to let Richard ask his burning question, but I realized I forgot to tell everyone if they have any questions, and I promised Bouvier I would do this, that you can put any questions in either the Q&A or the chat. And then that reminds me, because I feel like a question people may have is if they're interested in mediating for Hello Divorce, how should they reach out to you?
Yeah, so if you're interested in mediating, you can, first of all, you can find me on any of, or you can find Hello Divorce on any of the social media platforms at Hello Divorce. But if you're interested directly in at some point mediating, regardless of what state you're in, you would want to email me, Erin, at hellodivorce.com. I might then put you in touch with someone else on the team, but that's probably the easiest way for us to connect. And yeah, I wouldn't say we have a ton of volume in every state yet. Like we're still sort of working things out. But if, especially if you're in California, which I would assume a lot of your people are, Texas, Utah, and Colorado, those are where our biggest need is right now.
Very good. Okay, Richard.
Thank you for that.
It just keeps going in terms of the questions. Tech tools, divorce is seasonal. I just found that comment interesting, and because I'm not directly involved in family mediation per se, kind of a collateral part of that. But why is divorce seasonal?
I mean, everybody has their theories about it. January, like new year, new me. A lot of people like got through the holidays for their kids, but now they're ready to make a change. So January and February tend to be big months. For people lower economic status, like after tax, they get their refunds, their tax refunds. Sometimes they're using that to pay. Summer is notoriously like not the highest time because people are distracted, maybe a little bit more joyful. So it just kind of, it does feel like it's sort of this ebb and flow. And then like to answer Soli's question about like being surprised about people choosing mediators when not really knowing what they do, it's a lot how we phrased the question, right? It wasn't necessarily that we said, would you choose a mediator? It was more of like a professional that could help you resolve issues pertaining to your divorce, like questions like that, so that they didn't have to check a box next to mediation, because we thought that would sway the answers.
I realized I really created a huge faux pas there in my last question by asking why, and that's something that I try to stay away from, is asking anybody why they are doing whatever they're doing. But in any case, I caught myself there. But I was curious in terms of just as an aside. But the other, just a comment that I have as well, in terms of when you were speaking of mediation and having mediators as part of the initial offering in terms of the services that you're providing. One, I like the terminology that you're using there, but the thing that also really caught me was that I learned long ago that if your professional and personal values don't align with whatever system you're working in, that it's time to do something else. And so just the fact that you mentioned that aspect of, if this is something that you felt like a mediator that's listening to this right now, if their professional and personal values align with this might be something that that they should really look into. The other thing that, again, that I found interesting is that you immediately jump to, and it doesn't matter what state you're in, what state in the United States, you're looking for people from just about anywhere. So that's also exciting. The question that I have, that I really, and Jennifer mentioned this in her introduction for you, you were recently noticed as a legal rebel by the American Bar Association. I absolutely love that, and I'd like to hear more, please.
I love it. I loved that honor. So the American Bar Association has been like very generous with me. They just before COVID really hit, so February 2020, they awarded me with the James I. Keene Memorial Award for Excellence in E-Lawyering, which is hilarious to think about now because everybody e-lawyers now, but at the time I got an award for that. But I always kind of wanted to be on their legal rebel list because it does feel like we are pushing back against the grain. And, you know, just for everyone's comfort here, we're not taking the multi-million-dollar divorces for the most part that like a lot of you are. Like, these are people that wouldn't have hired a lawyer or a mediator, but for having a way to keep the costs down. So, but that doesn't matter. There's a lot of talk, as you know, about changing these regulations, and a lot of lawyers are pushing back. And so I think American Bar Association like definitely noticed that. And then like the productizing law in a way that gets people to a successful conclusion. I define success as, did they finish their legal issue with peace of mind, feeling better than they did when they started. So I think, so that was really fun. So I wore my leather jacket, of course, for that photo shoot, because what else does a rebel wear? Yeah.
Well, that's just congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm quite envious. That's actually quite an honor, and I think it's really something, you know. And it falls align what, you know, one of the things as mediators that we look to at times is lightning rods in terms of the change, and so that's what you're doing, and it's sort of shaking things up a bit and getting some movement, and I think that's just really exciting. We have a question here from Corey Napier. She says, "Fantastic company. I'm curious about your volume. How many couples are accessing your software each month?"
So that's a great question. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so but I can give you like a general sense. So last year, about 600 divorces were processed through our company on anything DIY pro or above. So we also have just like the access to software and do it on your own, excluding those people, just the people that somehow involved a human. That's about the number that we had processed. And some of those, both parties worked with us. Others, it was just one party, but the other party cooperated enough to like get it done. So, and then we've got, I mean, we definitely have thousands of people that come on our site every month and download like our free like mediation prep checklists and download, you know, sample settlement terms. We have a worksheet for creating your own co-parenting agreement. So we have a lot of that happening. And I think what's different about Hello Divorce than you might experience in your own practice, maybe not, but at least this was the difference between Hello Divorce versus my legal practice, is that the decision-making process for divorce is usually 5 to 7 years that somebody's thinking about it or trying to save their marriage before they file for divorce. And over 70% of the time it's filed by a woman. And so when somebody called my law office for us to represent them or mediate, they had already been through that whole decision tree and have decided now we're going to move forward, versus Hello Divorce, where if you're thinking about it, if you want to get a sense for what it's going to look like, then you might come on much, much earlier. So I hate to use the word sales, but you will all understand the sales cycle is much longer for us. They might come on, get comfortable with us, talk to us. It might be a while before they want their spouse decides to join. They might do a 15-minute call with one of our mediators just to get comfortable before that actual purchase takes place. So that's been really like interesting for us to learn too.
You know, but that's also a real service, I think, Erin, in terms of it's like early dispute resolution, and people are able to access these things, get more information, be thinking about it, possibly visit with somebody, because like you say, this is a life-changing decision, and it's not something that's taken lightly. So it's
Absolutely.
I see that as really part of the service that you're providing, in terms of, even though it might take a long time before they actually come on board with you officially, what you are providing them as they're moving through that process is something of real value. I mean, there's some merit to that, in my opinion.
Thank you. I think what I saw a lot at my law firm were people that were panicked and scared and angry. And I think when we're panicked and scared or angry, we oftentimes make irrational decisions, like pick the most aggressive lawyer in town, which isn't a good choice for most people. And so that is what I want to try to help with, help start to reduce some of that overwhelm so that it doesn't feel as scary, as awful when you're getting started. So that's the educational component is definitely really, really important to me.
Right, and that really speaks to one of the other questions that I had for you, in terms of what did you see, or what do you see in terms of Hello Divorce that was lacking in the traditional system of courts, and you've pretty much spoke to that, but that was I don't know if there's something else that you would add to that, in terms of what was lacking, in terms of what you saw when you were actually in a practice, a traditional divorce practice, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah, so a lot of other things too. And one was that I had a lot of people saying that they felt like just like the mere fact of lawyering up would ramp up the conflict instead of start to resolve it, because their spouse would feel obligated to do so too. And then like, what would that look like? You can't control who your spouse lawyers up with. And as you know, depending on the lawyer you choose, you could have a wildly different path. The sort of not understanding like what the different pieces are, which direction your divorce could go. The only like having one path to resolve conflict. I saw like lots of major problems with the DIY options that were already out there, ethical and just systematic issues with it. So it just really didn't feel like there was anything out there that did the trick. And not to say that we do, like we're learning every single day and fail more than we win, but it does feel like we are working towards a goal that we are aligned on and that we really want to see for our customers.
Nice. I have just kind of a follow-up to that, and then I want to kick it back over to Jennifer. I'll just hog the show here, but do you have data on your resolution rate in terms of what that looks like?
Yeah. So right now it's 97%. Yeah, this is, so it's very exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Again, like not the most, like the craziest divorces out there, but still people that are coming to us without an agreement that need to get there. So it's exciting.
Yeah, nice.
Right. Before I ask my question, I see a question coming in the chat from Sully asking, has it always been that way that 70% of filers are women? And is there any explanation for that?
It's been that way as long as I can remember. I mean, there's all sorts of hypotheses or theories, I should say, around why that's the case. But I don't feel like I have enough of a sociological background to really comment on it. I have my own theories too, but yeah, I mean, it's just like been in my experience that that women, when they're done, and that like men are more comfortable living within a so-so relationship. So, but I have no idea why. I mean, that's a gross generalization. I have no idea why the statistics lean that way.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm going to take a step back and kind of ask like this, a big question. I just have to say, like, on a comment, it's like, I have so much more admiration for your company. I already thought it was really amazing and innovative, but just hearing all the thoughtfulness that has gone into it. I mean, that feels so great to know that you're, building a business, but also really helping so many people. And I see it as like also probably helping so many children that their parents aren't being pitted against each other in litigation, but rather you're resolving the divorce so that the different issues in the divorce, so people can move forward more amicably. So that is just, I think that is so amazing. And you've put all this thought into this, and I mean, I can still see that it's still constantly evolving. And I just say, like, so many people, I mean, everyone we know has ideas, myself included. We always have these big giant ideas, but so rarely do people actually turn them into a reality. And so I'm so curious how you took this idea, and I mean, it could not have been easy. So if you can share with us a little bit, from when you thought of the concept of Hello Divorce and really what you had to go through to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to the extent we want to innovate our practices, not everyone needs to go out and, start a startup. I definitely did not know what I was getting into when I did this. But before that, like, we did a lot of like not smaller, but small, but like we made a lot of efforts to innovate within our own practices. And I think that really what I sat back and I thought about what are the three things I love best about the work I'm doing. Because if there's nothing I love about practicing law, then I need to figure out a way to get out.
Right.
And it turned out that for me, there were a few things that I really enjoyed. I was burnt out on litigating and going to court, and I had paid my dues. I became a certified family law specialist. I'd done it for 15 years. But what I really enjoyed was running the business. And what I really enjoyed was understanding what the consumer needed and like how to craft something that met those needs. So then I started to take steps towards getting to a place where I could do more of that. So for me at the time, I've since way scaled back my law firm, but at the time I scaled it up so that other people could do the legal work and I could spend more time doing what I loved, building the brand and building the business. And I had an action plan. And even if I just did one thing on that action plan a day, just one thing, no matter how small it was, like research doing business as, or, or where I might, where I might register my company, things like that. Even if it was just one thing, it's amazing how everything starts to add up. Like it actually comes into place. And so that was incredibly helpful to sort of take it that, just like break it down and take a step at a time. Definitely spent a lot of time, which was hard for me, but asking for help and learning from the people in the various industries that touch ours, asking a lot of questions and getting a sense for what they were doing right and wrong. So kind of one thing at a time. And then before you know it, it was like, well, not before you know it. I always say that it takes 5 to 7 years to be an overnight success. And that really is true, right? But you can make small changes in your practice that really make a difference. So as an example, when we added something as simple as being able to schedule online for an appointment with a Calendly link, for example, that was major. Like when people are researching options in the middle of the night and they have an option to click a link and schedule, all of a sudden that opened up more opportunities for us and the type of customers we wanted. We wanted tech-enabled people that were comfortable with technology. So like thinking about what little step can I do that gets me closer to what I enjoy. I used to, years ago, I would say to my paralegal, why do we always attract the crazies? Like we always get the people with the messiest, ugliest, meanest divorces. And she looked at me, and she still works with me now, 15 years later. And she said, well, look at your website. You are asking for it. And it was true. Like my website was like, we are the most aggressive people in town. No matter what it takes, we'll win at all costs. And so of course, those are the type of people we're going to attract. So that change, right? Starting to think about how we wanted to put ourselves out there really made practicing much more joyful.
It's really interesting. Just listening to that answer right there in terms of this particular topic, how I made it. That's what we're looking at. Action plan, asking for help, small steps, and looking at how you want to be perceived. I mean, there's 4 things right there that are just huge that you just laid out for everybody. It's not to say that
I hope it's helpful.
Well, I'm sure it is. I mean, I'm looking at it in terms of my own practice. I'm going, which one of those things can I improve on? I mean, and I think that's the other piece of it in terms of the asking for help. It's the willingness to listen to what other people are doing and take from that. I know the first Family Mediation Institute that I went into a couple of sessions. I had absolutely no idea of what they're about, but I pulled something from them. And so I think that's something as professionals, as mediators, as dispute resolution professionals, doesn't really matter what your practice area is. Somebody has something for you that if you will take the time to listen, you can take and apply it to your own practice. And that's what I see you doing. And it's obviously just growing like crazy. So that's really good. Is there a piece of advice that anyone gave you that you took that really helped? in terms of
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so much advice. In fact, like sometimes it's overwhelming. Let's see. So one thing that I learned very quickly was, and not as quickly as I would like to have, to Andy's question, is how important it is to spend time with people outside of the law when you're thinking about a consumer product or service. I also wish, and I did a design sprint and interviewed lots and lots of people, but I wish I would have spent even more time talking to the people that would end up using, hopefully, our service or product. Less to the subject matter experts. We know that we're subject matter experts. Like we know we know enough, but what we don't necessarily know is, some of the branding questions or the data, how to structure a data strategy, or what people actually need, or what software already exists so that you don't have to recreate the wheel. So that was definitely important. And while I did forget what your question was, Richard, I lost my train of thought. I just wanted to answer because I'm on this train, I wanted to finish answering Andy's question, if that's okay.
Oh, please. No.
Okay. So what I would have done differently is that I would not have spent all of my savings on an app that I ended up canceling. So I built, and it was helpful in that it got me on the map and it got interest and ultimately got investors. But I built this app and I spent all of our money on it without knowing if anyone would use it, and if they did use it, would it work? And there's so much out there already that already exists, out of the box solutions that you can use. Your customer doesn't ask, hey, is this your software or did you white label it from someone else?
Right.
They don't care. All they care about is what their experience is like. And that's it. And so I definitely would have used what's out there, especially if your clients are like mine, who tend to be in their 40s and 50s and 60s. They aren't looking for the shiny, fancy, brand new tech that's out there. They're looking for something that is going to be user friendly, and that's it. So I would have done that earlier.
Andy asked the second part to my question, so that's
he stole your thunder.
No. That's just fine, because it was basically two-part. Is what advice was there a piece of advice that somebody gave you that you went, oh
yes.
I absolutely needed to do that, I did it and it worked, and the other part was, if you were to do it again, what did you do that you would just go absolutely not? So
okay, got it. I think the best piece of advice I got was to prioritize your own wellness, which is constantly a work in progress. You can imagine how busy I am as a mother and a wife and owning these two companies. And then we just launched today, actually, you can see in the ABA Journal, Justice Technology Association. So super busy, but it's so easy to, you hear the statistics of business owners and their marriages and not working and their relationships failing. And so, I started to see pretty early on, I was getting sick and I was really tired and we were fighting more and my kids were feeling less connected. And so, when I started to get the advice that hey, taking an hour or two off in the afternoon to take a walk and take care of you will actually help you be a better leader, I didn't believe it. But ultimately, a year or two later, there's no question at all that prioritizing that is a necessity for a business owner, not a luxury.
That is just awesome advice, and I know it to be true myself. So
yeah. A lot of people gave me that advice, so I can't credit anyone in particular, but once you hear it enough, you're like, oh, okay, maybe there is something to this.
Well, and the better part is then when you start doing it and you realize, oh my gosh,
I feel so much better.
I'm feeling much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really something. I'm just trying to think here in terms of oh, I know that in terms of forms, and I just it's just got, it's almost an aside, but you referred to the forms as delightful forms, and I yeah, just like that's one part of what I do where I'm just like, oh man, I need some help with having delightful forms, because the forms and the kind of the bureaucratic piece of what I do is just, it's onerous is all I can say. You might be able to speak just a little bit more about that if you would, in terms of the delightful forms. Thank you.
You got my mind thinking too. I was like, oh, maybe mediators should be using our software, not just consumers. But
there you go.
Someday, but it's not there yet. What I meant by delightful are definitely not the forms, but what I want to be delightful is the data entry piece, the saving, the being able to come back to it and jump on and off whenever you need it. I anticipate that at some point we'll use an API with, let's say, like Plaid, where you can pull your banking information in, so you're not like rummaging through your drawer, or or you can screen capture with your phone your mortgage statement and then it uploads to your form. So it's not there yet. This is what we're dreaming about right now and building, and hopefully being able to raise even more money, but to be able to do. But that's what I mean. I want it to feel like this is the easy part. And right now it feels like the hard part for everyone: lawyers, mediators, consumers, courts, all of that. And so a lot of people think it's crazy. Like, why would you, there's lots of document generators out there. Why would you now try to seek to build your own? And the reason is because we couldn't find anything. I still haven't found anything that really works in the way that we need it to work.
Well, like we were talking about earlier, it's definitely appears to be an organic process. And in that sense, one step at a time, you're taking information in and growing from there. So that's really exciting. I think we have another question on the chat here. If I can
So true. You said no one should be allowed to get married until they have observed a full day in family court. That is, you take anything from today. Take that. That's a really good point. It's so awful.
Yeah. That is hysterical.
So I have a question. You've touched on this a bit, but I think, again, when I'm just listening to you talk about all these like ideas for the future, I think it's so exciting where the technology is going. The courts have been so far behind with technology, and at least COVID has given them a good shove in the right direction. So I'm sure that there's a lot of people that have, or have ideas and are being, inspired by you. So if somebody has an innovative idea for a form of alternative dispute resolution, or a company like yours, and you had to give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
It would be to do your research to see what already exists or has exists and why it succeeded or failed. We're doing too much recreating the wheel, and it might be something that you can build off of, right? Like, for example, once we finish our own document automation system, that could be something that you want to take to help in health law or employment law. It's so it's, the hard part is not the idea. The hard part is the implementation of that, right? And so once you have the idea, the only way to really think through the implementation is to do the research out there. And it's just a Google search and talking to people that might be in the industry.
That's great advice.
Thank you.
This
has been a really fun conversation.
It really has.
I've got and asked a lot of great questions, and usually they're not nearly as fun and interesting. So thank you so much.
Well, we're a fun and interesting group.
Yeah, like yesterday when I showed up for our practice session and you,
Right.
the two of you and Bouvier were like all in matching pink. It was lovely.
Well, we had to do something to break it up a little bit, but Erin, I don't know if there's a question that if there's something else that we should have asked you that you think of, but I know we're getting close here towards the end of our time frame, but if there's anything else that you can think of that you would like to let everybody know.
Just keep me, keep me as a resource. And sometimes I might not have time to respond in detail, but I almost always have a link or another person or someone that can help put people in the right direction if you're considering making some innovative shifts to your practice. And don't be afraid to fail, because we fail more times than not. But it's the only way to progress, and we all know that too. So I'm just hoping to encourage and inspire some of you to just kind of think through what little change you can make in your practice so that you have even more joy. And you'd be surprised at how quickly things change in that respect. So that's all. That's what I'll leave you with. And I look forward to attending more events and yeah, getting more involved when I can.
Yeah. Well, Erin, it's just absolutely, it's been a delight, and just really great to see what you're doing. And we really appreciate you taking the time to do this with us this afternoon. I know that you're extremely busy and sought after, and for you to take an hour out of your day and visit with us. One of our board members had just texted in, you'll see this in the chat, just thanking you for your forthright answers, and just, sharing with us, what you're doing. And it's just, it's very exciting.
Well, thank you. And this team, this group of professionals are really the heroes of the legal system, as far as I'm concerned, of the dispute resolution system. This is exactly what we need. And so know that is where we stand, and that we are in no way trying to eliminate the need for mediators. If anything, we're just trying to give them better tools and better access to the types of clients they want to work with.
No, I think that's very evident. Jennifer, do you have any thoughts here just to kind of close things up?
No, again, I just mirror Richard's comments. It's been a great conversation, and thank you for sharing all of your knowledge with us. And we can't wait to watch. We can't wait to watch Hello Divorce continue to grow.
Yeah.
Very
Thank
excited.
you.
Absolutely. Alternative dispute resolution.
Double A.
I love it. Yeah, I have to get a t-shirt with that on it.
Well, again, Erin,
right.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you both.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.